Let's talk about tracking after a heart shot coming up next. Most of you are probably thinking, okay, a heart shot, what's the big deal about tracking after a heart shot? Well, generally, there's nothing that's a big deal after it. It's usually pretty awesome. But there are some circumstances for you to help determine if it is a heart shot and how long you should wait. And a lot of times in this industry, we're catering our videos to new hunters, novices, as well as somebody with a lot of experience that just may have some questions. So for this video, we're going to talk about some anatomy. We're going to talk about the details of the heart, how impact in those areas will differentiate between what you may do after the shot. So let's talk first a little bit about the deer heart and the anatomy. First of all, a deer heart is not all that big, really. It's just about the size of an ill-formed grapefruit, if you want, maybe even a little smaller. The apex of the heart actually tilts down towards the belly of the animal and faces towards the rear of the animal. The apex is the very bottom or pointy part of the heart. So the top portion of the heart, with all the big vascular association, is actually at an upwards angle inside the cavity. The heart is also nestled between the lungs. So oftentimes when you get a heart shot, you're involving lungs as well. That combination is usually awesome for a really short track job. A direct heart shot in the upper portions of the heart or through the center usually will result in a really fast track job. Sometimes only 15 yards, 30. But sometimes things just are wonky and that deer may go 100, 150 or even more yards, especially if that shot is way down at the base of the heart. It is possible to hit a portion of the heart, especially at the apex, where you don't have any involvement of the chambers or of the valves or anything that's really all that important. Thankfully, there's vascular association around all the heart and usually plenty of lung in that area as well. But it's possible on an angled shot or maybe even some crazy steep shot where you've come in really, really low and just the tip of that heart is all that's exposed and that's all you get. And that could certainly result in a longer tracking job. So even when you're sure that you've had a heart shot, it is still best to sit in your stand, wait and watch and see what's happening with that animal. Best case scenario is you've watched him drop and you're celebrating from the stand. But if he has done that mule kick and taken off like a bolt of lightning and crashing through the woods, then you have a good opportunity to find that deer, of course, but you should examine the scene. First, look at your arrow. Did you get a pass through? What does the blood look like? Is it a nice bright red blood? Does it maybe have some lung froth on it as well? How much blood is left at the scene? Do you have a really solid blood trail? Does it peter out right away or is it solid the entire way? If you get the upper portions of the heart where you have the aortic arch, the pulmonary artery, the veins, everything going in and out of the top of the heart, it is lights out. I mean, that deer should not go far at all. Now, depending on your broadhead and your angle of entry and exit, you may not get a ton of blood. Everybody thinks that I should have a ton of blood based on my broadhead, but there's a lot of things that happen. If you have an angled shot, and as that deer is running, that layer of skin over top of the ribs, if it's moving, it can close that hole up a little bit. So you may only see blood on a stride or a jump. You may see tons of blood depending on your broadhead. You may have a trail that you could follow in the dark without any flashlight, and that would be great. But sometimes that's just not the case, and you still have a heart shot. So again, take your time, examine the scene. If you feel that you did have a heart shot, slowly walk in the woods, following the blood trail, and always be prepared for a follow-up shot because you just never know, and it's good to be prepared. So if you're confident of your heart shot based on the deer's reaction, how the arrow looks, how the scene looks, just make sure you've taken your time going in, be ready for a follow-up shot, and good luck recovering your deer.